Sonic games tend to age like fine wine. Well, the better Sonic games at least. Sonic as a platformer can reach vast complexities due to the variety in the mix of speed, platforming, and level design. Finding and mastering speed as a player in the Sonic series is an art that most Sonic fans will grow a muscle for by exposing themselves to the games whether they realize it or not. And it creates situations where long-time experience with the game creates more valuable experiences that cannot be replicated by a first-time player. Each time you replay that Sonic game or your favorite stage, you learn another thing that can be used to optimize your routes and speed until you reach a point of damn near peak efficiency where you are something short of speedrunning the game. This experience gives way to the most rewarding sense of accomplishment, a testament of how far you've come. But reaching that high, that level of accolade as a player, that Stelmo 96 level of speedrun, takes time and experimentation. When you come back to a Sonic game after playing it initially, interacting with the levels, design choices, you get a feel for what the game has to offer. Sometimes that feeling is smooth and easy to pick up, yet intuitive to interact and improve upon. The advanced and adventure games give off this vibe, where it seems like the more you interact with the game and its mechanics, the more you learn through repetition. That repetition is imperative. You get more familiar with what a Sonic game has to offer and gain a muscle memory for maneuvering through the levels. Sounds simple enough, right? You revisit your favorite Sonic game, and you'll most likely find more reasons to love it. So when me and the boys revisited Sonic Rush for the Nintendo DS, I was expecting that same fix of nostalgia mixed with a drive for experimentation, and I don't know. It was like the wine somehow went bad.
Who made this? Who made this shit?
The rose-tinted lens faded, the unconditional love gone, and all that I was left with was just this harsh reality. And so we have the final part of the equation, the part that brings everything together, the reason to interact with these mechanics and systems in the first place. Fun.
What?
It's crazy, because
This probably would be my favorite. Just this alone, just like looks so fucking sick. This looks a lot more like what I look for with Sonic games.
Fun. A subjective but imperative part to any game, including Sonic obviously. Are you having fun interacting and experimenting with whatever Sonic playstyle you're using in the game that you're playing? Based on the game, that'll vary from person to person. So if I wanted to enjoy a game, I'd have to play it more. But if I don't enjoy the game initially, nor do I have any desire to get better at this game, I will never unlock what it's like to play the game at the top level. Even if that level of experience is fun to replay and to retry, the act of getting there is not fun. And so there are some Sonic games where you gotta make that tough choice, where I'm sure if I learned how to play this properly, it could be fun, but I'm not having fun now. So why should I bother putting myself through so much pain and torture just to have more fun with a game that I don't really like to begin with? If you don't enjoy the game initially, nor do you enjoy getting better at the game, then you'd have no desire to keep playing to hit that magic point where the game becomes good. And so we've reached the paradox of what are mostly Dark Age or the nostalgic era Sonic titles, and even some classic ones. Why can't the game just be good from the start? A question that shouldn't feel so wrong to ask, yet is, when we're discussing certain Sonic games. This is what I believe is the issue with Sonic Unleashed. In the daytime, not as much, but mostly for the Werehog levels. It seems like the way people feel about Unleashed HD is almost one-to-one about how they feel about the HD Werehog, where with immense leveling and experimentation, one can become the most fastest, most optimal version of the Werehog, a version of the game most players will not experience due to how long it takes to get there, which sounds all fine and dandy, right? Like, if you want to put that time in, go ahead. But is it fun to put that time in? Is it fun to monotonously repeat that process, coming back to this game over and over again, just to hopefully one day get better? Is it worth a player's time to go through all this if they don't enjoy the base Werehog to begin with? That is the question I think you should ask yourself. I guess to dissect what was wrong with Sonic Rush, or what we didn't enjoy about Sonic Rush, we should go back to its conception. In the early 2000s, Sonic was undergoing a huge shift as a brand. The 3D games that started as the next big step for the franchise were becoming more commonplace, and Sega started to treat Nintendo as a partner more than a rival. Sega started re-releasing the Dreamcast GOATs like the adventure titles on GameCube and hired development company Dimps to start making exclusive titles that carried on classic Sonic's ideas and legacy to a more convenient and portable platform, the Game Boy Advance. As time went on and Nintendo continued to evolve its handheld systems, in 2004 Nintendo released the now world-renowned dual-screen action system, the Nintendo DS.
The result is this. DS not only changes Nintendo, it changes our industry. Here's a brand new Metroid game playing on Nintendo DS.
Sega in that time period loved to get the jump on creating titles for new ambitious hardware, even before they found a proper footing. That's why 06 Secret Rings and Generations on 3DS had releases the way they did. Even though I don't personally hate the latter two, it's clear that there was some concessions made during the development simply because of a lack of understanding the hardware that the games were on. So before Sega made Sonic Rush, Sonic Team initially made a E3 tech demo for the Nintendo DS, a 3D Sonic game that used some of the assets from Sonic Heroes, and you essentially just used like the touch screen to run. It didn't have any like sauce or any like interesting level design. It only had a single level in it. It was literally just the definition of a tech demo. After that showcase was done, that's when they started the development of Sonic Rush. During the development side, Sonic Rush was made because they wanted something simple. They realized that Sonic Advance 3 might have been too complicated for the speed-based action part of things, because Sonic Advance 2 had a good mix, but Sonic Advance 3 was very platform heavy, very technical, and the team combinations get very in-depth. But the question is, do you still get that Sonic experience if you're not experimenting and doing all that kind of stuff? I guess Sega kind of figured like, well, there may be people who don't get that experience, so we're gonna keep Sonic Rush very simple. That's how it ended up the way it did. Sonic Rush is fucking ambitious and funky and stylish. It's the epitome of what you'd want, the cool factor of Sonic mixed with just this unapologetically hyperactive and swaggy Sonic that just gets to dance around, that gets to party, and that gets to beat up Eggman in the middle of it. Sure, yeah, I mean, dimensions may be merging and Sonic's friends may not fully understand what's going on here, but hey, we're having a good ass fucking time doing it. That is what makes Sonic Rush so fun as a game, just because of its energy. It's so captivating, it's like electric, you can feel it through the screen and through the music, Sonic's moves and his actions, and they carried over some things from Sonic Advance that I think were really cool. My personal take is the Sonic Advance series was the epitome of cool. It peaked in Sonic Advance 2, but Sonic Advance 3 had a lot of that as well if you played with the right teams. Moving on into Sonic Rush, starts out really tame. It does a better job than like Advance 3, considering that was the previous Dimps game at like getting people to warm up to the controls and to the level design. Getting rid of the hub worlds from Advance 3 was a really good idea. I don't think the Advance 3 hub worlds really helped anyone. And moving on towards the level design, I think at first it gives you the space to try out different things and to use the newly added boost function, which the boost mechanic debuting in this game gives you a sense of like how iconic this game was and how ambitious this game was, because this would be the mechanic that kind of defines modern Sonic and what separates modern Sonic from classic. The boost mechanic is what made modern Sonic its own pillar compared to classic Sonic, because you could argue that the advanced games are just classic Sonic but better, or with more movement options and with more complexity in every area, probably except level design. And you could argue that the adventure games, at least Adventure 1, was just trying to be classic Sonic but in 3D. The boost mechanic was the first mechanic that really separated Sonic's need for building up speed, because you got access to it instantly. That's flashy and that's fun and that's ambitious. I can appreciate what Sonic Rush was doing, trying out the boost for the first time. As you go further into the game, a lot of the complaints that I thought I remembered about the Sonic Advance series, like Sonic Advance 2 and 3, where I thought there were maybe too many bottomless pits, too much trial and error, too much like you can't react to what's coming towards you. A lot of that was actually not in the advanced games. I think the advanced games are actually really decent at that, like letting you react to things and not being as much trial and error as long as you stay on like the high pathway, because it's a dimps game, so high and low pathways are just littered all over the place in the level design. So if you're good at the game, you'll stay on the high pathway. If you're bad at the game, you'll get the low pathway, and the low pathway is the riskier one. If you fall off the ledge on the low pathway, you'll probably KO and have to do it over again. Whereas if you fall off the ledge on a higher pathway, you probably get pushed down to the lower pathway, and then you get to keep playing the stage from there. I think that's the biggest difference. And then the two pathways converge every once in a while to give like some stage defining like obstacle or something like that. And I know in Advance 2, the most bullshit obstacle was the one like right before the end of the stage. So that's when you can tell that you were nearing the end. If you got to a section that was like somewhat more frustrating than the rest of the stage, that's when you knew you were kind of at the end of the stage. But you might forget that in the middle of your frustration. This all leads up to this backwards feeling that Sonic Rush has, where instead of crafting levels and a gameplay loop that encourages more experimentation and utilizing more of its mechanics, it forces you to engage with some bullshit level gimmicks and bottomless pits and insta-kills that just take all the fun away. Strips the game of what it wants you to do and instead forces you into these set pieces that are just very rigid and do not have a lot of ways around them, to the point where all you're really trying to do is just get past it. Instead of I want to get better at this, or I want to learn how to do this better, it's I just want to skip this. And then you also consider the boss fights and just how awkward those were. If you get hit and you lose your rings, they just fly out of you. Like, it's very unlikely that you'll have that you'll get that ring back if you get hit a certain number of times, and each time you get hit, the ring flies further away, making it hard to properly gauge when it's okay to take a risk to take a hit just so that you could beat the boss. And it's kind of like the Sonic Superstars problem, where some of the boss's rotations take too long before you can hit them again. I don't think I hated Sonic Rush, but I think playing it again, we kind of figured out that maybe it wasn't all that we remembered it to be. And I think having that perspective is good now as an adult. I don't have to pretend Sonic Rush is better than it is. I do remember reviewers when I was younger ripping into Sonic Rush, and I never really understood why. And I got really defensive about Sonic Rush. After playing it again with a more fresh perspective and a clean slate, I can tell you, the wine goes bad in Sonic Rush. I don't think a lot of the level design decisions were smart or even all that interesting. I think the game has a good energy, but I think if you play it for too long, you're going to want to put the sticks down. If there's anything that'll keep you motivated, it is Hideki Naganuma, the godfather of the Jet Set Radio soundtrack, worked on the soundtrack in this game, and it's still so iconic to this day. So many tracks from this game just stand out, even in Sonic's immense music library that is very diverse and robust and just has so much good stuff in it. Sonic Rush's soundtrack still stands out because of its unique composition. It's more sample-based sound, and its just ability to, implement dance music and fun energy into the core of its gameplay. So although the bosses were kind of the special stages are even worse, because those are just where it gets really sweaty.
I just have to make it through this shit without getting this one section. If I can make it through here without getting hit, save state that, and I'll be set for the first third of this of this stage.
Oh my god. She got this back. Yeah, I'll take it over from here.
Okay. I got this.
Yo, Magnum, I'm down to tag out, bro.
No. Don't worry. Look at this. You see, I'm good.
Be really wary if you plan to go for the Supersonic minigame, because Dimps had a track record of making Supersonic a minigame, and that's the one thing I think Classic Sonic did better than Modern. There were just too many times where Supersonic was just treated like something separate from Sonic's core gameplay, and so it became more of like just this privilege compared to something that you could work hard for and get rewarded for. Now it's mandatory to get the full context of the game. That wasn't really the case in Classic Sonic. You could beat the game without the Chaos Emeralds and still get the full story. It's just with the Chaos Emeralds, you get like a slightly better ending. That not transferring over to Modern Sonic has kind of ruined some of the joy or some of the allure of Supersonic, and going through immensely frustrating special stages for an essential part of the story and a mini game where you're fighting like some of the weakest boss fights ever. It's just more pain than it's worth. I was sweating trying to get through that last special stage, and that was with save states. If you go back to Sonic 2 or Sonic 3 and Knuckles, they had multiple chances to get to a special stage in a single level. The issue with Sonic Rush is that it was one special stage per area, so you could only get a single Chaos Emerald in one zone, then you had to go on to the next, meaning that when the level design starts to get a little bit funky, it's very hard to optimize your run around special stages and unlocking Supersonic, because you have to go through the entire game in varying qualities of level design and navigate to every single special stage at least once. Spacing them out isn't the worst idea when Supersonic is only a minigame and not unlockable as an upgrade to your character, but it's just unfortunate that there's very little player expression that can go into unlocking Supersonic faster. You just need to play the game the way the game wants you to play it. You can't really put your own twist or find your own route towards it. I didn't talk about Blaze, but I love Blaze's introduction. I think she's an interesting character. The whole split dimension thing didn't really work that well in Sonic Rush. I think the story could have been told a lot better, and it really feels unfortunate because Blaze is like the perfect mirror to Sonic. I also like that the dynamic between Eggman and Blaze is like opposite of Sonic and Eggman. When Sonic and Eggman are interacting with each other, Sonic is usually composed, cool as can be, and it's Eggman who's really like foaming at the mouth, just angry that Sonic even exists and that Sonic's getting in his way. Whereas with Blaze and Eggman Nega, it's like the opposite. Eggman Nega is usually the one that's more composed, and he's mocking Blaze the way that Sonic would mock Eggman, and Blaze is the one who normally is very temperamented, very calm. She just can't control her rage around Eggman Nega. That, I think, is good writing. That, to me, is absolute cinema. Despite me not liking the way that the story is told, Blaze is still the highlight of the Sonic Rush story. The way that she slowly learns how to open up and accept others after being in isolation for so long, after everyone relying on her, forcing her to learn how to do everything herself. Her inability to trust others to handle big tasks is probably because of how she was a princess in her own dimension, and her slowly opening up, letting Sonic in, despite how driven she was to not do so. The moments between Sonic and Blaze are the strongest beats in this game. I wouldn't put this in like my top 10 Sonic stories, but it definitely has its moments. I guess I would say that Blaze's campaign is better. Although the stages are out of whack, you don't need to do the special stages. Like Sonic is like you are getting put through the ringer. For Blaze's, you get the Soul Emeralds just for being the bosses. The bosses are like a little harder in Blaze's playthrough. Otherwise, it's a perfectly fine way to play the game. And so by the end of the game, either you were so distracted with the energy and the fun that you were having that the level design didn't bother you as much, or you were rage quitting because of how annoying the game was. However you ended up feeling about Sonic Rush, I think it's fair to say that the game still has some merit to it. I don't think it should be completely ignored or eviscerated by the community. I think there are good things to say about Sonic Rush. I just don't think it's worth your time if you're just trying to play a Sonic game casually. You will need to sweat when you're playing Sonic Rush. And so that's why I think I like Sonic Rush Adventure much better.